This segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terraborn Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And wanting to get updates whenever we need them from Terraborn Parish Sheriff's Office, we get them from First Lieutenant Blake Tabor. Blake, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Keith.
All right, man, I appreciate it. And so we'll talk about school starting here in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about this unfortunate situation with this recent arrest.
Yeah, so, this is kind of one of those alarming cases, as if, every SVU case that we handle is not alarming. Of course, they certainly are, but this one has a little unique component to it. So on July 30th, our SVU was involved in an investigation that led to a juvenile victim under the age of 13 who would receive some pretty explicit phone messages via social media on multiple platforms.
Okay.
Again, that is nothing new to us, right? It happens all the time, unfortunately. But this one was a little bit different. This one involved a person that the family had hired as a music teacher for a younger sibling. So ultimately, that person was identified as a Marciano Michael Robichaux, 23 years of age, from Lockport. You see him photographed here. Ultimately, the family, as I said, hired Mr. Robichaux as a music teacher for one of their younger siblings. Mm-hmm. As a result of that, he came into contact with the victim while teaching, and then ultimately the messages began to run from there. Ultimately, he was brought in for questioning. He admitted to sending the messages, which, again, is not usually common.
Right.
And he also admitted to knowing the age of the victim, which I think is probably the most disturbing part of all this, right? Ultimately, he was arrested on two charges. One was indecent behavior with a juvenile. The other was computer-aided solicitation of a minor. And he is currently still incarcerated at our facility on a $100,000 bond.
Yeah, and again, it's one of these things where we want to make sure that we're vetting anybody that's coming into our home, especially into our home with our children. Not that people can see this coming, right? But again, I love the fact that these parents, as soon as they found out, immediately began the discussion and what is or isn't appropriate, and then these things came to light. But again, like you said, a little bit of disturbing information about giving that information forthright first time they talked with the individual, and the fact that he knew it was a 13-year-old.
Absolutely.
And so, just as parents, we're like,
Yep.
And so, again, we were just very glad to have these people off of the streets.
Absolutely.
And not being able to kind of do this with anybody else. And so,
Yep.
So I think some people feel like if they don't do something, that it's not wrong. But in these kinds of cases, it is absolutely, it's a felony.
Absolutely. And look, we talk all the time about if you see something, say something, right? And a lot of this has to do with burglaries or suspicious behavior on the street. There's this component of our society now that almost feels guilty about becoming involved in things that they feel are suspicious.
Right.
And, we have to really get away from that. And the other point I really want to drive home about this case is the way this came to light was the fact that the parents took the phone from the young lady, not because she was in trouble, but because school was impending. And so they wanted that phone to be out of her possession. A savvy father just started looking into that phone. Boom, here come the messages, and we're off and running now. So the importance of making sure that parents understand that you have to check these devices.
Right.
It doesn't matter even if you trust your child completely. Mm-hmm. You just never know what a child is hiding, not because they're doing something wrong. In this particular instance, the juvenile victim did absolutely nothing wrong.
Nothing at all.
And never even responded in an inappropriate way back to the suspect. So again, it's what are they hiding because they don't want people to get in trouble.
Right. And again, probably thinking, I don't want to make a fuss. I don't want to make a big deal out of this. But it's our job as parents to make sure we know what's going on in our children's lives, and the phones matter.
We live in a day and age where we cannot bypass that as a parent.
Right.
Because when we do, terrible things can happen.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They can be lured away in lots of different scenarios. This could have taken a turn in lots of different ways and where we don't want it to. Speaking of, school is starting. We need to be more vigilant, like this father was.
Absolutely.
And so I'm very glad that these things came to light. We were able to see the issues that maybe were there that we didn't know about. We want to do that for our school-age kids as they return to school.
Yeah, and look, and this isn't just about, all the safety issues that come along with kids, this is about sitting down, having true conversations with your kids, opening up that dialogue, because I really believe that parents are sort of oblivious to all of the things that goes on in our kids' lives. Mm-hmm. If we can't be a sounding board for our children, then someone else is going to be. And we know far too many times that becomes a serious problem. So, regardless of whether the kid is messing up or made a bad decision, things can be overcome, right? We can get through things as long as we open that dialogue. And it's really important. We want that for the teachers of our children. We want our kids to be able to open up to teachers about things happening to them. I want my kids to be able to open up to me as well. So we need to do a better job as parents and make sure that we're opening that dialogue up to our kids, regardless of how difficult it can be.
Yeah, and so that's just a way to become a better parent.
Absolutely.
And so if this helps other parents go, oh, okay, I mean, maybe I can do this a little differently, then it's a learning opportunity for all of us.
Absolutely.
Right, to be able to do that. Blake, we appreciate everything that y'all do, the SVU unit as well. But thank y'all for keeping these people off the streets and making sure that we're staying safe.
Thanks for saying so.
All right, guys. All right, that'll do it for this particular segment, but don't go anywhere. I got a whole lot more right here on Bayou Time.
This segment was brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together.